tenders, it doesn't have enough snorkels to rescue people from tall buildings, and this keeps happening every few months. There's a massive incident like this. So I think this was in some ways a tragedy waiting to happen, because the city's governance is overall in a mess, and this will call for the government to pay attention to its fire services and for robust fire safety measures in hotels across the city.
Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us and updating us on that. That's journalist Shahzad Gilani joining us from Karachi. You're listening to Newsday on the BBC World Service. Let's talk about something being touted as the most important decision in its history. The Supreme Court of the United Kingdom sits to decide whether or not Parliament can trigger Article 50 of the Lisbon Treaty, which would start Britain's exit from the European Union, so-called Brexit. And supporters of that, which of course was voted for in a referendum earlier this year, angrily attacked three High Court judges for an earlier ruling that Parliament had to agree to this. It's a big day, an important day, so we've got our political correspondent Rob Watson very early in the morning to tell us about it. Good morning to you, Rob.
Good morning.
Just remind us who brought this case to court in the first place.
Well, it was an investment manager and a hairdresser and a few other people who thought, hang on a minute, it can't be the Prime Minister and Ministers who trigger this. It should be Parliament, because we are a parliamentary democracy. Now, what's happening this time round is that it's the government that has brought it to court, saying, hang on a minute, we're not happy with the verdict of the High Court, we're taking it to the Supreme Court.
And it's a 4-day-long hearing, is that correct? The expectation?
It is an absolute marathon. I've got all my legal books out over at the weekend. But I think the important thing to remember, and I don't want people to switch off the radio at this point, it's not the Supreme Court isn't deciding should Britain be leaving the European Union or not, or is Brexit a good idea or not. It's just saying, how do you go about it? And as you were mentioning earlier, the earlier court ruled, look, because rights are being taken away from British citizens, the right to move freely around the European Union, potentially, only Parliament can take away rights, not the government. And the government is saying, hang on a minute, there's this referendum, it was 52% versus 48%, let's get on with it. Of course, ministers have the right.
So if the judges decide that Parliament has to be consulted, how soon would that debate start?
Well, that's the really interesting bit. I think the thinking is that the government likely will lose, and why this matters is that the judges have said, look, Parliament would need to get involved, and this is where it gets fruity and juicy and interesting.